Hey everybody, Texas Trucker here, Lance's Performance Shop, Mopars.com. Just cranked out a National Tool Warehouse video. That's kind of a hodgepodge of things. Some of these items came from there, one of them did not. It sort of made sense to me to throw the three items together, so that's what we're going to do. And once again, I use timestamps. I do links down below. I do that all for your convenience. Take advantage of them if you would like. I can also tell you the gloves you're going to be seeing me wearing are from Alpha. They're the best gloves I've used. The code Lone Star saves you 20%. I make nothing off of that. I do that again solely for your convenience. Now, we're gonna get in. I've got so many like stacked videos that I haven't recorded, like products I bring in when they're on sale, and I'm kind of waiting until I need to use them or get time to use them in many cases. And this stuff is way more recent, but it's also going to get used, I think, a little sooner than some of the other kind of high-end stuff. So we're just going to throw down with this as our first item. This is from VIM Tools. I don't think I have many things from VIM, aware of them, but this is something that I picked up. I think they might make this and have it rebranded for other people, or it could be just like some conglomerate OEM that rebrands it for tons of companies. Why did I get this one? It was the best price. So Summit has one. I honestly thought I bought it from Summit, and I guess I didn't, but they all look identical. Sometimes the knob's a different color. If you don't know what this is, well, it's the MPWT, right? It's the magnetic plug weld tool. This thing will set you back $37.28 from National Tool Warehouse when I picked it up. This is kind of a cool deal if it will fit and work, which that's kind of what I need to investigate. You know, there's some welds that's it's gonna be fine, it's gonna work great, but then there's others where there would be obstructions and like irregular surfaces, and I don't know if it's gonna work there. So it's gonna kind of be an experiment, if you will. That said, the reviews on Summit, people seem to be pretty happy with it, so I guess, they had fairly good luck. But it's a magnetic base, that would be kind of over on this end. Copper alloy pad, that's going to be the shiny thing that looks like copper. Why is that important? Well, look at the next point. Weld will not stick to copper. So, this is a situation, or if you have to do a bunch of like plug welding or joining of like panels and things, you can put this as a backer, and that lets you fill the puddle, right? And kind of bond the panels together in that situation. And then this doesn't also join the equation of being bonded. It's just releases off. So that's kind of the whole purpose of the tool. It's for welding holes into auto body sheet metal. Probably should have just read this off instead of ad-libbing. Cleaner welds, less panel distortion. Saves to that. Also does serve as a heat sink to some degree. Flat weld inside panel. It's got a limited lifetime warranty. That's kind of interesting. US and international patents. So who knows, maybe they are the ones that made it. I'm not 100% there. There you can kind of see I love anytime there's like a face milled like that. Sort of just the decorative thing. It's also going to help it release a little easier. So backside highlights, this is sort of what she would look like out of the bag. Cleaner welds, less panel, saves time, flat weld, anywhere you can access the backside of the panel. So again, thinking of like floor pans and trunk floors, you can access it, but sometimes you got like the strengthening groove, right? Instead of just being a flat panel, it's got like the V-notch or the trough on the inside, and then obviously on the backside you sort of have that like little channel. Similarly, you might could use it down the middle of a seam if you're joining or in the transmission tunnel, but you come over here to like the rocker area and you've got like a weird curve, right? And then you've got a situation where you got a frame rail here. I just don't know like how many instances in the welding chain this will work. I feel like it's probably going to function a third of the time for sure, and then the weird access point ones I don't really know. So it's just going to have to be felt out, and depends how the magnet is, the clamp, all that stuff. So the directions: position the tool so the copper pad is over the hole, adjust the thumb screw so that the copper is flat against the back of the hole. So again, picture this as your magnetic base, and then it's sort of like the lever effect. So if we tighten that down, this is going to come up, and it will then give you the ability to articulate this into position. But like, what if there's an obstruction here that interferes with the arm, and then like this is all rendered useless? No matter how you adjust that, you can't get that there. And it's just a question of how many times is that going to happen. So that's what remains to be seen. If you're doing totally flat stuff, like if you're building boxes, battery boxes, fuel cells, ice tank, anything like that, you know, or like even just straight flat sheet metal fabrication, like on a table, this thing would be sweet. Where I'm wanting to use it, I think I can use it some of the time, but maybe not all the time, and that's kind of, again, the catch-22. So, adjust it so that the copper is flat against the back of the hole. Set TIG or MIG to low power. Weld hole with a circular motion, and for larger holes, use a steel plug and weld. So, designed to keep magnets away from heat. Again, that's kind of your leverage there. Neodymium, however you pronounce that, magnets will lose magnetism if temperatures exceed 230 degrees. So I should have totally not put away everything that I used to just pull all these staples, but this thing arrived like filthy. It was one of those things that was kind of like crushed in transit type of a deal, and it's one of the two items that I think sort of put a bow inside our little MTS green socket peg holder, the friction peg style. I realize now I didn't cover that that's how that works, is friction peg, but I've brought those in before and mentioned it, so hopefully people remember. Let's see if we can get this thing out without having to use the pliers. Is there one up top? There's not. Should be golden, man. Alright, let's grab this guy and get him out so we can take a good look at it. We can move on. This is sort of the concept, right? So now that you see it out of the packaging, it'll hopefully make more sense. This is where we would be welding, okay? So if we're totally flat, you're home free. If you've got, you know, good articulation here, you can do crazy things. So you might need an angle like that. Just sort of depends on your setup. Might need to kick her down some. This right here is the magnet, okay? So this would adhere to your frame rail, your floor pan, whatever. And then this little adjuster knob, if we come in, obviously in this scenario, it's going to be doing that. But as I turn this thing all the way, you can kind of see the corresponding gap, the angle of articulation between the arm and the fixed position with the magnet is changing. Hopefully you can see that. I'll try to kind of keep it. So this is sort of like your max angle, okay? So we could get this in a weird position and this would drop down and you're sort of stuck there. If, however, we back this thing out, we'll just go extreme and get the threads totally out of the gap. The threads are recessed beyond this channel, okay? They're inside the body. Then we've also created a situation where we get a little bit more play in it. So hopefully that makes sense. I do plan to use it. We'll try to cover it in some videos where it's actually getting real world applications there. In terms of the tool itself, beyond operation, you can see right there, VIM is stamped in it. There's your patent number. So maybe they are the OEM, who knows. But there's a good look at the copper pad. It's riveted construction at both pivots. I don't know, it's one of these things. I've got high hopes, but I'm also aware it could be a bust. But hopefully it will serve me well. Again, $37, it's not the cheapest thing you can buy, but if it works well for you, you're doing something right. So hopefully we get lucky and have a good time with it. Now, if you're thinking like, okay, well, you got some welding planned, huh? Sure do, but before we can weld, we've got to do what? We've got to prep. And part of the prep, before you can prep, is you got to remove some old material, right? Especially on these old cars. So, this is what came from Summit. It is from Steck. I apparently didn't write the price down, and I don't really care enough to pull it up, so I'll have it linked for you. But it is right here. This is what Steck dubs their seam buster. I think it would be like part number 20015. They make a couple, maybe a couple different lengths of these, and then I think there's one that's like 90 degrees or 45. Straight on is kind of where I feel like I would be the most benefited, right? And if you kind of wonder like what's going on, well, sort of a Lyle style deal. You've got the dip and then you've got the overmold with kind of your textured grip. And the way this works, this is a seam buster. That's why they call it the seam buster, right? So if, let's say we're cutting out the trunk floor again, okay? We would come in and you drill out your spot welds, and that's great. And sometimes they release cleanly, sometimes they don't. Some people just go all the way through to mitigate that. That's where something like this would come in handy. I'm the type that likes to do it as best I can. Like the frame rail, the attachment point, I want to keep that intact if possible. So if I'm running my spot weld cutter, I typically use Blair for what it's worth. We come in and the sheet metal, the bad rotted metal that we're going to replace, should lift off, right? Sometimes it doesn't, and you can run that down and you can run it down and you never get it to break free. So what you do is you come in with something like this, and it's a chisel. You can kind of see the sharp edges there, and it's designed to break the spot weld, just like the cutter would, just sort of an old-fashioned by force style. You know, a little bit more crude, if you will. But the other thing that happens so many times, you know, like you'll come in and you can trim. You can come in with your angle grinder, you know, or shear, whatever, and you can trim around the frame rails or the support pieces, and then you just have a little bit. You can come in so many times and kind of get under one of the edges and just hammer, especially if it's like a weak point or rotted. And then you can just kind of go down the line. In the past, I've used some items I probably shouldn't have used, including screwdrivers. You have mixed results, but it usually ends with a ruined screwdriver, which granted you're using ones that are bad anyway, or like a broken one, or the handle shatters on the acetate ones or something stupid. You know, not bombshell shatter, but like cracks and starts breaking type of a deal. Acetate is surprisingly durable if you've never like really beat on the back of one. Not saying you should, but if you've got some old rotten ones that stink and you wonder like, well, let's try that. It's more durable than you would think, I'll just put it that way. I'm sure it varies, manufacturer, age, condition, all that stuff, but that's why right here when you see that blue, that's because the initial dip is stopped, and that's because this is a striking edge. Not the most robust striking edge, but it is a striking edge. There's the part number again, 20015, and that's literally what this thing does. You can use it for other things. I guess you could scrape with it. I wouldn't advise that like on a critical surface, but it's certainly something you could do. Maybe you come in and you've got your, you know, fabrication table, and you like set up a small jig, you know, for like a run of, I don't know, 8 to 12 items, whatever you were doing, and then you have to come in and clean that off. This would work well there. But again, I picked that up from Summit. It is the Steck Seam Buster, so I'll have that again linked down below with the price. I'm going to tell you it was like probably 25 to 40, somewhere in that range. I feel pretty confident about it. And the thing is, I don't know if that's going to be good or bad, and I wanted to have some backup items, and that's what we have here. This one did come from National Tool Warehouse. The price point was $42.58. Part number is going to be 42020. This is 100% America and 100% Mayhew. I believe Steck is made, that seam buster, I want to say is Taiwan. I thought they used to be US based, but pretty sure that thing's Taiwan. So what this is, it's basically a Dominator version, a seam buster. And what does Mayhew call it? They call it the Weld Whacker. Do you want a seam bust or do you want a weld whack? Pick your poison and go to town there. This I thought was a really good buy because we get two pieces, and these two pieces are unique. Why are they unique? Got a short one that comes in just shy of 12 inches at 11 3/4, and then we've got the slightly longer one. It's also wider, comes in at 14 1/2. Selling points, they are heat treated and tempered steel blades. The blade extends to the captain. Again, a lot of times cheap versions of these, you'll have the blade here and it's like anchored into the handle, and then if they put the striking cap, it's not through. It's not like a tang through driver, right? You know, like our good German drivers that actually extend all the way. And this just provides way more strength. It transfers your blows from the hammer to the tip of the tool way better. Also saves on your hands, believe it or not, versus the other style where you have to apply more force to do less and waste more time subsequently. And they advertise also 2 composite soft grip handles. If you're familiar with the Dominator line, it's good stuff. The pry bars we brought in early, I love those things. A lot of you may not realize it, but you probably use Mayhew stuff. It's just rebranded by the tool trucks, and you pay a little bit more. Selling points from Mayhew: easily separate spot welds or bonded panels. Again, sometimes people, it's amazing what people do to flip cars. If you did not know, adhesive has come a long way. And there are people that will like glue and bond panels that way, and I realize a lot of like OEM stuff modern day, it's actually done that way. It was never done that way on like say a 71 Charger. But if you get something flipped from a guy that say maybe can't weld or has some adhesive sitting around, and they never use the good stuff, the correct stuff, the strong stuff, and they sort of like just half-assed the repair, didn't really get the rust out of the way, just kind of like overlaid it or something. You can also use this for situations like that. So for quarter panels, rockers, and any other pinch weld, sharpened end allows penetration between the panels, and the side edge allows for side impact to drive the panels apart without damage. Also great as a splatter weld cleanup tool. So this right here on the Steck, since we've got it opened up, this would be the drive end where you chisel away, and then this would be the separator side. That's why that's cut in. It's only on one side, so you can hammer over here if you need to. Also, when I reference, like if you had a fabrication setup and you're making a small production run of something, or you're like, man, this is really cool battery tray I came up with, I'm going to weld them, but I think some friends, or I might be able to sell a few of these, and you just kind of tack down a jig, and I said this would clean that up. That's what Mayhew means when they say that it works great as a splatter cleanup tool. So these have a lifetime warranty. If this Mayhew tool ever fails to provide complete satisfaction, it will be replaced free of charge. Return product to original retailer for placement. Again, if you've got a supplier locally, that is what I would advise that you do, is buy your Mayhew stuff from them, except in the event that they're like absurdly overpriced, right? If I could pick this up from National Tool Warehouse for $42.58 and the local outfit wants like $85, well, I'm going to go with the half price option, and, it is what it is, kind of a personal preference. It also kind of depends on your relationship with them. But again, like if it's price gouging or just stupid expensive, and here's the deal, there's going to be very few like mom and pop places that will stock this stuff. If you have an auto body supply place, yes. But so many times there's people that are Mayhew distributors, but they don't stock near their product line. They might have the pry bars, because that's a more common thing, but like these would have to be ordered. And if they're just going to sell them to you for like same, more, or significantly more than you can get them online, take that into account. And if you're a good customer, if these fail, you can take it back to them. They should handle the warranty for you. If they don't, it's probably time to find a different supplier. But right here, you kind of get a look at them. Again, you can also compare them in the overall length to the Steck. The Steck is going to be very similar to this short guy that was 11 3/4 of an inch. This handle does not quite feel as good as my Dominator pry bars. It seems a little slippery. If you're thinking like, why did you buy red? That's the only color they offer. It's like the official Mayhew color. It's fine. Would I prefer pretty much any other color? Absolutely. Over time, if you use these enough, that's probably going to wear down. I think the red will stay a while. The white just remains to be seen. They're going to get nasty. You're doing body work anyway. Again, wear safety goggles. Don't take that lightly. Protect your eyes. You only have 2 of them, unless you're special and have 3. So this one, it does sort of have a drive on both sides. I would personally prefer to come in with a steeper angle, and again, you just sort of work it in and start going to town. If you've never done this type of stuff, these will be super nice to have. I've done this type of stuff and didn't have these, and I cannot wait to have a proper tool for it. The bigger one, again, right there, it'll probably be what I use more frequently, but there's so many times you're in space constraints. You don't have the ability to swing a 3-pound sledge, a full blow. You've got to come in, and you might have to grab this little guy, and you might only be able to go back that far. Okay, that's where you want the tang through. That's where you transfer as much energy as possible. The big difference here, though, aside from the size, is just like the blades. I mean, obviously it's sized up, so the blade corresponds. Quickly, we'll do some measurements. The rain has started again. This one's going to be exactly 1 inch wide. I love working with American companies, don't you? Right here, it's going to be 1 1/4 inches. So just 1/4 inch wider. The overall length of the blade, if it matters to you, you're going to be about 4 inches, give or take. Kind of depends on the bend in the weld. And then same thing here. Again, overall length, they advertise this one at 11 3/4. That checks out the Steck, just so we can kind of have a reference point. 11 3/4. So yeah, which one will work better, which one will I like best, I don't know. I'm gonna have to use them to tell you that fairly. Initially, I can tell you I would prefer this handle. It would be way more confidence inspiring, just the ability to really bear down on something. I'm less likely to pound myself. This, though, it could be good in tight quarters. Again, it's going to be way easier to have this slip, I think. But who knows? We just kind of have to wait to see them and get them in use. But yeah, that is the tool haul. Not necessarily something for everybody here. There's not really like run-of-the-mill, you know, everyone uses them. If you're buying these things, you have to have something in mind or you're doing body work, right? So that said, any of these could be good general purpose chisels or scrapers. You could probably be better off getting something intended for those applications, but if you're like, I wanted a scraper with a big handle, try it, you know. I do think you can buy them individually as well if you don't want to commit to the pair. When you do bundle them, you do save a little bit, keep that in mind. But yeah, links will be down below if you have used any of these items, whether it's the VIM spot weld or anyone else who put their name on it. If you've used the Steck seam busters or the Dominator weld whackers, feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what you think of them, which one you prefer and why. If you prefer the weld whackers for this application and the seam buster for this one, tell people that's the end goal, to help people out. Some people may not know these exist. Some people may not have therefore known they needed them or they were an option. And I can only come in and give you an initial synopsis of the product. I can't tell you like, oh yeah, this is replacing my set that I bought in 2008. You know, they've been fantastic, but the handle finally wore out, or I broke the tip and you know, they're so good, I'm not even going to warrant them. I'm just buying a new set. Can't tell you. They're brand new to me. So if you have that first-hand experience, the most valuable kind, please tell people, let them know your thoughts, your experience, and opinions are appreciated here. But with that said, LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all three at Lone Star Mopars. With that said, the rain is coming down. It is still super nice out here. I'm going to get back to some real work. I sort of got this done. I'm really bad when stuff starts to pile up. I feel like I need to record some of it, get the packaging out of the way. It's amazing how much space packaging takes. And just kind of gives me peace of mind. And I can recklessly order more cool tools to make more videos and try out and have a great time. So it's a win-win. So with that said, I hope you have yourself a fantastic week. And I hope, more importantly, I catch you back here for more action from the shop.